Vampire. The word means bloodsuckers. Vampires that fly like a bat in the middle of the night and stuck their teeth into the neck of a person to drain blood. Vampires are a myth in many cultures, under many names, and in many languages. Some cultures have stories of non-human vampires, such as animals like bats, dogs, and spiders. Vampirism is the practice of drinking blood from a person or animal. In folklore and popular culture, vampirism generally refers to a belief that one can gain supernatural powers by drinking human blood. It cannot be said with certainty that it is just a myth, because how can you say that it is a myth when there is evidence that vampires are a reality as explained in stories and novels? The vampire is perhaps one of the most feared characters in fairy tales. Dracula is a vampire with the most fans in the world. Vampires were immortal creatures in European folklore. Vampires were those who would plunge their sharp claws into the chest of a living person and eat the bleeding heart. Vampire is a creature that preys upon humans, generally by consuming their blood. Vampires were not dressed in long black coats like we see in movies and novels today. Vampires were not pale white. The vampires were short and fat, with the blanket covering the head. Red faces, bleeding lips, and sharp teeth were their features. But when did these features change? The answer is the beginning of the 19th century. The fictional vampire character that we see today is introduced in the novel, The Vampire, written in 1819 by the English writer John William Polidori. In other words, the reality is that it is barely 200 years since the fictional vampire storylines that we see today in movies and novels have been introduced. Some traditions hold that a vampire cannot enter a house unless he or she is invited in. They cannot enter a church or holy place. They are servants of the devil. Bats have become an integral part of the traditional vampire only recently, although many cultures have stories about them. In Europe, bats and owls were long associated with the supernatural, mainly because they were night creatures. Some vampires are said to be able to turn into bats or wolves. The most usual ways to destroy the vampire are driving a wooden stake through the heart, decapitation, exposure to sunlight, and incinerating the body completely. Vampires are often depicted as being repelled by garlic, running water, or Christian implements such as crucifixes and holy water. In some stories, vampires may enter a home only if they have been invited, and in others they may be distracted by the scattering of objects such as seeds or grains that they are compelled to count, thereby enabling potential victims to escape. While a large number of people believe that vampires are just some fantasy created for the sake of stories and movies, a small number of people believe that vampires are real. Once upon a time they lived on Earth. It is a truth. A long time ago there were some people who were afraid of sunlight and did not go out during the day but only at night. Their teeth and lips were stained with blood. They spread fear among the people. There was also a group of humans who feared that if their saliva or blood spread to other humans, they too would become vampires. A few years ago a vampire who showed such symptoms was buried alive. No other proof is needed that vampires were alive long ago. Some records say that some humans turned into vampires long ago. Those who escaped the attacks of vampires at night, they too would become vampires. Gradually they begin to fear sunlight, their teeth protrude from their mouths, and they begin to drink blood. Days after, their body starts turning pale and white. If the people we knew until yesterday suddenly showed the above symptoms, we would definitely believe that vampires are real. Those records were true. Those who became vampires were buried alive. Evidence for that has also been found. This one condition that affected humans was true. But over time, science proved that it was a disease. It was porphyria, also known as vampire disease. A disease affecting the blood. If affected by this disease, the body becomes pale and white. Sunlight burns the body. Sharp teeth tend to protrude. The lack of heme protein in red blood cells causes these changes in the body. They believed that the body was pale and white due to lack of blood. As a solution, they started drinking the blood of animals and gradually humans. If you think that the stories of vampires and bloodthirsty people ended centuries ago, it is not so. We still have bloodthirsty vampires among us today. It will affect their own bodies if they do not drink blood at least once in 2 days. It is considered a mental illness called hematomania. Those who think that if they don't drink blood, their own body's energy goes down. There are many people who sell blood to them for money. In one form or another, vampires have been a part of human culture and folklore for millennia. And the bloodsuckers show no signs of going away anytime soon. Subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching.